Introduction. Gabrielle Bernstein has given many talks and workshops. Now she is sharing the secrets to her success in a book about creating a super attractor power. She lays out her methods with personal stories of her own struggles. Bernstein's book comes with meditations, prayers, and an overall glimpse into what life can be like if you replace negative emotions with positive ones. If you're worried about how to do this, Super Attractor lays out the methods to be successful. You are a super attractor. People who are spiritual often align with a higher power. When you read this book, it doesn't matter which power you align with, but that you are seeking answers. Developing a spiritual connection and a positive attitude can build your dreams. Chapter 1. The universe always delivers. The more you try to control your situation, the less you are in touch with the world around you. Bernstein says that even though she is a spokesperson on the subject, she struggles sometimes. She then gives an example of how she tried to control a situation and how drained it made her feel. She had feelings of resentment, anxiety, and was missing out on the feeling of joy in her life. When you give up controlling a situation and simply let things flow, life becomes much easier. This is true in most circumstances. You can relax and enjoy the inspiration around you. Your vibration will naturally attract the support you need. Blocks will naturally dissipate. Chapter 1. The universe always delivers. The more you try to control your situation, the less you are in touch with the world around you. Bernstein says that even though she is a spokesperson on the subject, she struggles sometimes. She then gives an example of how she tried to control a situation and how drained it made her feel. She had feelings of resentment, anxiety, and was missing out on the feeling of joy in her life. When you give up controlling a situation and simply let things flow, life becomes much easier. This is true in most circumstances. You can relax and enjoy the inspiration around you. Your vibration will naturally attract the support you need. Blocks will naturally dissipate. The good news is, even if you are out of alignment, you can choose to make a new path. Bernstein had a shift in her thinking when she was out of alignment that allowed awareness in so she could choose a new path. While she had been experiencing all sorts of stress and trouble around her speaking events, when she shifted her attitude, everything fell into place. The shift in her attitude and energy allowed a positive outcome. It's easy to have negative thoughts. The tough part is breaking free of them and allowing yourself to be in a more positive place. In this positive place, it's easier to function and attract what you want. Bernstein references a spiritual teacher named Abraham Hicks. Abraham says that operating on a level of well-being has a snowball kind of effect. The more positive you are, the more positive things will happen to you, regardless of your situation. Bernstein points out that people may feel resistance in the cycle of negativity, but becoming aware is the first step to changing to a positive state. Rather than complain about your issues, you can be grateful that they give you insight on how you can heal. The idea is not to avoid uncomfortable thinking. Bernstein lists a 3-step method on how to approach thinking if you are dealing with negative thoughts. It's called the 3-step Choose Again method. 1. Notice the thought. 2. Forgive the thought. 3. Choose again. This method should be used to begin a practice of starting your day in positivity. Chapter 2. It's good to feel good. Most of our lives are spent living in fear. We become used to acting from a place of anxiety, defensiveness, and judgment. If we can break this pattern, we can become free of these beliefs. Bernstein says to concentrate on this saying: in order to truly live as a super attractor, we must accept that good things can come easily. She says to say this phrase over and over again until we believe it can be true. Often, we come up with excuses about why things will never happen. If we stop doing this and believe that it can, our whole attitude will shift. Things will become easier to attract. Bernstein then gives an example of how she made suffering a practice in her life. She always felt she could not trust anyone to get things done. This reached a peak where she could no longer go forward, and she hit rock bottom. At the time, she needed support. She started from scratch and asked herself who she could count on. She came up with an answer, her event planner. She could always count on this person to have her back. She started to repeat the mantra, pay attention to where you feel supported. Feel the feelings of support and feel them more. Bernstein focused on this feeling and in turn began to attract more help for her business so she could focus on what was important. The key takeaway here is that feeling bad will not get you something good any faster. If you relax and think positive thoughts, the universe will show up for you. People often think that if they receive something, they will feel better. This isn't the case. You will always desire more. If you begin to think positive thoughts, your circumstances will change because you will be putting out a positive energy. Bernstein gives you a prayer to focus on. I recognize I'm out of alignment with, name a person, situation, belief system, and so on. I choose to release the outcome and feel good now. Thank you, universe, for guiding me. If you focus on letting go of living in fear and live in the now, things will come faster than you expect. One way to focus on feeling better is to think of a feeling you have that is based in fear, anxiety, or something negative. Then, imagine the feeling you want. For example, if you have a friend that excels at following her passions, then think of what it is like to be around that person. Bernstein says that looking at other people's lives helps us to understand what we want and to manifest it ourselves. Most people feel a deficit when they look at other people's lives, but if you change that to simply using it as a tool to understand your desires, you can manifest them. To guide yourself to a more positive place, it's also important to make an affirmation. For example, if you feel fearful about paying off your student loans, write down that you will find a way to pay them off. Then make sure you look at this every day. If you're struggling with your emotions, you can always take out your affirmation for a reminder. Bernstein also says to meditate for 10 minutes on your affirmation per day. The difference is that you're not relying on getting somewhere to feel better. You are allowing things to be and feeling good in that moment. When you feel that way, you attract a better energy and allow for positive things to happen. Every day, it is important to do something to make yourself feel good. It's important to always make yourself feel good. A lot of people put others first. This is not the way to attracting what Bernstein calls the super attractor power. She lists 3 things that help people better. 1. You can call on your affirmation to shift your thoughts. 2. You can sit in your meditation to shift your energy. 3. You can do something that brings you joy to realign with the universe. An important realization to have is that it's okay to say no. If it's a matter of having time to do things that make you feel good, then saying no is okay. Creating a language for yourself that's positive makes a big difference as well. If you frame a problem as something to complain about or something that cannot be achieved, you are putting that negative energy out there. If you frame a problem as an opportunity or focus on the positive rather than the negative, it will make a huge difference in your message. Surround yourself with people who also have a positive message. Avoid people that don't make you feel good and bring you down with their negative language. Chapter 3. There's more than enough to go around. Bernstein talks about people who attend her spiritual junkie class. Most of them come to the class unsure if they can achieve their dreams. One of the ways they do this is by comparing themselves to other people. Bernstein says that by comparing yourself to another person in a negative way is stepping further from becoming what you want. There are 7 blocks people get stuck believing in. Number 1, believing in lack. By believing you lack in something, you spend extra energy trying to prove yourself. In turn, this lowers your vibration. By simply believing you are enough, you become focused and aligned with the universe. Number 2, thinking there isn't enough to go around. People sometimes have the belief that they have to go overboard because there isn't enough. Some people don't even try because they think if someone else is doing it or has it, there is not enough for them. There is plenty to go around for everybody, and if you align yourself with the universe, it will provide. Number 3, comparing yourself to others. Comparing yourself to other people makes you feel small. That energy is then what you put out into the world. Bernstein uses the example of being the last of your friends to be engaged. If you compare yourself to your friends in a negative way, you are saying that you are inadequate to attract love. This then is the energy you are putting out. If you focus on what you don't have, your energy will go to that place and attract negativity. Number 4, the need to win at the expense of having fun. If you focus on having fun rather than winning, your whole process changes. When you let go of the results, the process changes. You're no longer attached to the end result. Number 5, rejection. People use rejection as an excuse to not do things. Rather than looking at rejection with fear, if you look at it as a way to guide you, it changes everything. For example, look at rejection as guidance towards your true path. If you look at it as guidance, it takes away the fear. It pulls you away from not trying things and allows you to follow your dreams no matter what happens along the way. You know that rejection is a guide forward to bigger and better things. Number 6, having a need more mentality. People tend to think what they have is not enough. A promotion is barely celebrated because the person is already on the way to their next goal. If you decide you are never enough, you're always seeking more. It prevents you from having fun in the process of life. If you envision a goal, you certainly have the potential to do it. Focus on that and the truth that you are enough as you are. Number 7, the fear of being judged. Fearing what others think is common. It also comes from not believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, then others will not either. Now that the blocks have been listed, Bernstein gives solutions to moving through them. One solution is to keep your desires to yourself until you believe in them. If you share desires and visions before you're confident, they can come from a place of fear and people around you could be further discouraging. Also, it's important to create boundaries around what your goals are and who you desire to be. If possible, it's good to do this in a loving way. Bernstein gives an example of not telling her mom about conceiving a child because she did not want her energy around the process. She asked her mom if they could discuss other topics instead. This was a loving way of creating a boundary. It's important to keep yourself around people that support your goals and dreams. It's also important to stay away from those who don't. Another solution to moving through the 7 blocks is to focus more on giving than getting. When you move your ego to the side and focus on service, asking what you can do, your work becomes meaningful. The universe opens up to support you. Wanting more for others is a third solution to moving through your blocks. It's easy to be jealous of what others have when it's something you want. Bernstein uses the example of wanting a child. Many of her friends were having children and she had a difficult time being happy as she struggled to have her own. She began to shift her feelings to being happy for her friends and sharing their experiences of motherhood with them. This allowed her to learn tips and exude a happy energy rather than dwelling on what she didn't have. Doing something that brings you joy is always something that can help you navigate through a block as well. Even if it's as simple as going for a walk or cooking, it can lift you out of whatever negative thoughts you're having. Bernstein says to turn on the faucet. This means to keep track of every time you shift from fear to love. You'll see how it makes a difference. It also means to focus on the process rather than the outcome and flow. It will also heal your feelings of insufficiency. Finally, Healing the feeling of lack will allow you to move forward with love and confidence. Chapter 4. Have fun along the way. Sometimes you are in a negative place. It's okay to accept being in this place, and perhaps it isn't realistic for you to move to a place of joy quickly. What you can do is identify where you are and make small moves on your emotional scale to reach a better place. Bernstein uses the Abraham Hicks emotional scale as an example to understand where you are. 1. Joy, appreciation, empowered, freedom, love. 2. Passion. 3. Enthusiasm, eagerness, happiness. 4. Positive expectation, belief. 5. Optimism. 6. Hopefulness. 7. Contentment. 8. Boredom. 9. Pessimism. 10. Frustration, irritation, and impatience. 11. Overwhelmment, feeling overwhelmed. 12. Disappointment. 13. Doubt. 14. Worry. 15. Blame. 16. Discouragement. 17. Anger. 18. Revenge. 19. Hatred and rage. 20. Jealousy. 21. Insecurity, guilt, unworthiness. 22. Fear, grief, desperation, despair, powerlessness. Bernstein uses an example of a child who didn't make it onto a baseball team. She experienced his steps as he moved through all of the emotions. Letting him rant allowed him to move through these steps at his own progression. The important part is not avoid your feelings, but to realize you can move through them. Another method by Eckhart Tolle is to understand that something bad may have happened in the past, but you are safe in the moment you are presently in. This refers to the choose again method. The idea is to acknowledge negative feelings, but not to dwell in them. Bernstein says to practice the choose again method regularly. Figuring out what brings you joy is helpful to raise your emotional scale. You can choose an activity that you love, as simple as making a cup of tea or going for a walk. Often people think that getting what you desire will bring joy. If you focus your joy in the present moment, you can begin to have more of what Bernstein refers to as your super attractor power. She mentions also randomly smiling at people or engaging random people in conversation. This helps one to realize that love is all around us. Developing joy as a constant state of being is more reliable than any job, relationship, or wish you may desire. Things may not always work out, and you may not feel great all of the time. It's important to remember to acknowledge your feelings and move towards a better place emotionally. Bernstein shares an example of how she started an Instagram cooking show out of her joy of cooking. Soon, she had followers and people recognizing her for something she was sharing just for the joy of it. Her point is that there are things to do that bring you joy, and you should tap into those. Bringing joy into any situation, whether it be the workplace, a long meeting, or a difficult situation, will change the atmosphere into something more positive. Somebody asked Bernstein what to do when you're around negative people. Her response was to carry a flashlight. This means to represent your joy in the situation rather than pitying someone and going down to their level of negativity. Bernstein says that when she started to measure her life in joy, all sorts of amazing things started to happen. The positive effects showed up everywhere in her life. Lastly, Bernstein says to inspire others by your inspiration. That means to be selfish about what inspires you and to protect that. You can only serve from a place where you are able to give. Chapter 5. Lift the Veil. Bernstein talks about her spirituality as a child and how it developed into fear as an adult. She then describes ways to rejoin with spirituality. Bernstein uses an example from a book called The Course. The miracle is always there. Its presence is not caused by your visions. Its absence is not the result of your failure to see. It is only your awareness of miracles that is affected. End quote. The idea is that people often separate themselves from the spiritual realm with ways of their ego. There are a million ways to do this. Bernstein describes this as a tiny, mad idea. If we are able to see ourselves as spirits in a human world, our experience shifts. If we can come from a place of connectivity with the universe, we will feel a universal love. Separating ourselves from the universe creates fear. Bernstein is saying that this idea of separation isn't what harms us, but it's how we react to it that can be harmful. If we choose to react in fear, thinking that everyone is out to get us or that we don't have enough, it perpetuates in our actions. If we're able to lift the spiritual veil, we can see the connectivity and love that is around us. Bernstein uses an example of a physical ailment she had. She was suffering and was trying to figure out the problem. Finally, she was diagnosed. She met with a spiritual teacher of hers to talk about her issue. Her teacher told her that although her physical body was suffering, her spirit was not. Bernstein realized that she had separated the two. She began to focus on healing herself through finding light again. She moved her focus from negative worrying and thinking about her pain to healing her body. Bernstein then talks about how her experience in the dark, in separation, allowed her to see the light again. She talks about moments where her focus in meditation and belief in the light actually manifested in reality. It is a practice to see the light and bridge the gap with our perception. She gives the advice to keep it simple in spiritual practice. Everyone moves at their own pace. A good place to start is by forgiving yourself if you have been in a dark, negative space. Everyone has the opportunity within themselves to lift up out of this space. Bernstein saw some negative comments about herself on Facebook. She was stuck in negativity, feeling triggered and defensive about these comments. Her husband nudged her to look at the thousands of messages from people on Instagram and focus on those instead. As soon as she shifted her focus, she was able to shift her attitude and see the light again. She was able to reach out to a bunch of people and found herself praying for them the following day. What she is saying is that focusing on a positive thing allowed her to help others around her rather than focusing on attacking another person for something negative they said about her. To find a way to the light, Bernstein offers a meditation. This meditation focuses on breathing and positive mantras that enable you to lift the spiritual veil. She suggests documenting this experience in a journal. She concludes with reiterating that if we choose to see the world with love, compassion, and kindness versus the alternative, we become closer to the light. When you begin to see the light and have a positive energy around you, people may come to seek help from you. It's important to help others by remaining a positive force and not getting drawn into their drama. Even if you don't do anything specifically other than remain whole and steady in your light, you are setting a great example for someone who is struggling. Chapter 6. Invisible guidance is available to you. One of Bernstein's friends called, distressed about a breakup. After talking her through various options and getting nowhere, she suggested that her friend ask her spirit guides for help. Her friend lightened up at this idea. She contacted Bernstein the next day and told her that she had prayed the night before and solutions that seemed impossible worked out in a matter of moments. Bernstein says that she has not written before about spiritual guides for fear that she would sound crazy. She believes there are many forms of them in our ancestors and angels that watch over us. She talks about how people may be resistant, but to try and have an open mind about these guides. Bernstein references when she first became in touch with her guides. She had been addicted to drugs. When she was on her last rope and strung out, she asked for help. She received an answer telling her to get clean, and she would live a life of all of her dreams. Bernstein decided to get sober that day and was able to achieve her dreams. She cites another example of how she used her spirit guides to forgive someone that she felt wronged her. Her spirits guided her to see that this person was also struggling, and she was able to forgive her and see the relationship with love once again. There is no correct way to connect with spiritual guides. Everyone can find a unique way of doing this. The goal is to surrender your agenda and ego to a higher spiritual power. This will provide us with a path to love. Praying is a way to get closer to your higher self and power. It may be quiet at first when you start, but after a while it will be easier for you to hear this voice. Bernstein provides a prayer that helps to align the self with their higher power. I surrender my fear and allow the voice of my higher self to guide me toward the highest good. This will help you stay in touch with your higher power. Bernstein then lists 7 archangels that are powerful forces to pray to. The first one and most recognizable is Archangel Michael. Michael guides you when your safety is compromised. He is a protector. Archangel Raphael guides you when you are sick or have a physical ailment. Archangel Gabriel is an angel of communication and for children. If you are an artist struggling to get your message across, Gabriel comes to help. Gabriel can help on a journey of conceiving as well. Archangel Ariel is who you would call on for animals and nature. She protects the environment and will connect you to nature. Archangel Jophiel supports artists and creatives. She helps create calm and space needed to create. She is there to help with perspectives and new avenues for inspiration. Archangel Azrael is helpful in all matters of death, dying, and change. Finally, Archangel Shemuel brings peace to the world. He is one of the most important angels to call upon with all the divisions in the world. Bernstein talks about how she has her own personal guardian angels as well, and how they have protected and guided her in times of difficulty. You can also call on deceased friends and family as angels. Bernstein recollects on her friend who passed away at a young age and how she has guided her as a spiritual teacher. She also uses an example of her grandmother's passing. She says to tap into the signs that may come from ancestors. It's difficult when people you love pass away, but there is an opportunity to develop a spiritual relationship with them. Bernstein then gives instructions on how to connect with spirits. To invite spirits in, you must understand what you want first. You want to have a positive and supportive spirit, not one that could lower your being. One prayer she uses to connect with positive spirits is, "Thank you, guides of the highest truth and compassion, for revealing to me what I need to know." You can find a quiet place and meditate to connect with your spirit guide. You may have one in mind, or perhaps you are trying to find your own unique guide. Bernstein says to sit quietly and have a pen and paper. Sometimes it takes a while to connect, and you may hear a name through a sound, song, or another sign. She says once you are connected, ask for their guidance. One way to connect or channel them is to free write. You sit down with a pen and paper and simply ask for guidance and write whatever comes out. No editing. Bernstein has found a lot of insight in this exercise. Chapter 7. Do Less and Attract More. Bernstein was asked to speak at an event of Oprah Winfrey's. She talks about how she was nervous presenting on Oprah's stage. She channeled her spirit guide, Wayne, to help calm her nerves and remember to give a talk from the heart and spirit. In turn, her talk was a wild success. Often we feel that we have to take on everything. If you rely on your spirit, you can have support and move gracefully through life. This will help you to get out of the fight or flight stage. Once again, try to find your spiritual guide. You can pick one of the archangels that inspires you or choose someone you were close with that has passed. Then tune in with prayer. Thank you, guide of the highest truth and compassion. Name the guide you're connecting to. For revealing your presence to me, I welcome you now. There is also an example of a meditation that can be used to access the spirits. Bernstein gives a formula to practice meditation over 1 week with the following 3 steps. 1. Tune in through prayer and invoke the presence of your guide. 2. Relax and receive guidance through meditation. 3. Document the guidance you receive. Your ego will want to resist this practice, but the more you do it, the easier it will be to connect with your spiritual advisor. Trusting in a higher power does not mean giving up all of the power to make a decision. It simply gives you the confidence to make strong decisions and follow them. The spiritual guide will help you surrender your desires. Once you let go, things will start falling into place. The more you try to control, the more difficult things are. Bernstein suggests starting with small things like asking for help with meal prep from your spiritual guide. Then it will begin to implement this practice in larger areas of your life where you seek control. Believing in a higher power may be challenging to you at first, but once you believe, you will stop focusing on the end result, start allowing others to help, and create room for inspiration. Chapter 8. Taking Spiritually Aligned Action. Bernstein uses an example of how she envisioned being in the style section of the New York Times and made her vision a reality. She says that through patience, perseverance, and her vision, she was able to achieve her dream. She landed the cover story. She talks about how her process helped her to achieve this dream and how that helped launch her career. She then talks about the method, the spiritually aligned action method she used to achieve this and breaks it down. Step 1. Make sure your desire is backed by service and inspiration. Her New York Times story was supposed to be a way for other seekers like herself to realize that there was a community in this area. Even if your desire isn't to change the world on a large level, you can look at how a personal goal can positively change things around you. It's important that you look at the why of your desire and make sure that it comes from inner peace and not external validation. Step 2. Believe the universe will deliver. In order for this to be the case, you have to have clarity in what you desire. Write it down. If you believe in it, there will be support for it. Bernstein suggests that belief comes when you feel 100% confident and unapologetic about what you are trying to achieve. Step 3. Take action from a place of spiritual alignment. This means that you are inspired, aligned, and have a strong belief that things will fall into place. Step 4. Have patience. If Bernstein had rushed and been pushy, she may not have received the opportunity she had with the New York Times. She stresses the importance of waiting for the right time to act. You should wait until inspiration, belief, and service are all merged. In the end, manifesting your dreams isn't about getting all of your desires. Sometimes your dreams will show up in different forms than you thought. It's about aligning with the universe and following the spiritually aligned action method to help you with faith and your highest good. Bernstein gives an exercise to write down your desires. Then ask yourself what the sources of inspiration are and make sure that they are of service. Bernstein reiterates the method and then follows up with a prayer to say while you are going through the spiritually aligned action method. I lean into the inspiration of my desires, and I know it's enough to lead me toward what is of the highest good. I surrender this desire to the universe, and I know what is of the highest good. I surrender this desire to the universe, and I know I'm being guided. She stresses to people to be patient. The more you try to control a situation or a person, the less it will be able to unfold as it should. People need space to be able to have the universe move through them as well, so it is best to be patient. Bernstein says to practice this method for 1 month and then write down how you feel afterwards. She also gives a website to write to her on your results. Chapter 9. Appreciate and Appreciate More. Bernstein talks about a story where she went to London for an event. The woman who met her there and coordinated her week in London impressed Bernstein. She had everything together and made her feel really taken care of. Bernstein talks about how she was very appreciative of this woman and made sure to tell her. They found out they had a lot in common as well. In the end, they parted, but Bernstein had a feeling they would meet again. Over the years, They did meet through the same event. Eventually, the woman ended up working with Bernstein. They forged a professional relationship and friendship because they appreciated one another so much. Bernstein says that when we appreciate, we let go of our own desires and submit to a plan beyond our making. In turn, this creates a loving environment. If you focus on the good in a situation, it will naturally bring you out of the bad in the situation. The positive energy will draw a positive experience and outcome. This doesn't mean you have to appreciate something bad that has happened in your life, but even if you are struggling in some areas, if you take a minute to appreciate what is going well in your life, you will find something. Perhaps you are in debt. Focusing on that alone will not work. Focus on the things you do have. That will allow you to see abundance and to create different ways to have more money. Bernstein says to try and make appreciation a habit. One way to do this is to start your day by thinking of what you appreciate and writing it down. Appreciating can also help you work through the patterns of worrying. If you are chronically worrying about something or anything, you can change the worrying into appreciation. They cannot coexist, so one will replace the other. This is true as well for people that you resent. Make a list of things you appreciate about people that trigger you. This will help you to release resentment, which detracts from the ability to have a super attractor power. Bernstein then describes a meditation that can help hone in on your appreciation skills. Appreciating helps your energy levels rise, which can open new doors for relationships and opportunities. When you focus your attention on good feelings, your positive energy will increase overall. Bernstein ends the chapter writing about her relationship with Jessica and how she continues to appreciate their friendship, business relationship, and the work they were meant to do together. She reminds the reader that it was all built out of appreciation. Chapter 10. Let the universe catch up with your dreams. Bernstein talks about how she had been sharing with all of her followers her journey to fertility. She had been struggling with the process for 3 years. She was feeling especially discouraged one morning and decided to take a moment to ask the universe for guidance. In that moment, a group of wild turkeys came across her lawn. She looked up the meaning for this and saw that it meant fertility. Later down the line, when Bernstein was feeling discouraged again, she received a sign when she was driving that said she would receive news of her child in March. She was disappointed in March when she got her period. Instead of turning to fear, she turned to faith. She conceived her child on the last day of March. A big part of her miracle was being able to submit to the universe. Bernstein says that people need to let go of their agenda and timeline and submit to the power of the universe. Within that is where the miracle lies. When you surrender, you become more receptive to messages that will guide you. Surrendering is the first step to receiving whatever it is you seek. Bernstein has a prayer that she turns to for guidance in tackling the ego's agenda. Thank you, universe and guides of the highest truth and compassion. I am ready to feel free. I welcome a newfound faith. One thing you can do is ask the universe for a sign. Bernstein asked the universe to show her an owl every time she was on the right path. She would surrender her own plan and use the guidance of the universe showing her an owl to know that she was going in the right direction. Another way to connect is to ask a question to the universe and ask for a sign within a designated period of time, like 24 hours. If you do not receive a sign, it's important to pay attention to that as well. Sometimes that is an answer to a question. You can also choose to speak through a guide or one of the angels that were talked about in previous chapters. Bernstein also recommends listening to children, as they often are spiritual guides. When you are younger, you have a closer touch with the spiritual world. She said to pay attention to what children say and not ignore their imaginary friends as nonsense. Once again, she reminds us to do nothing and let the universe guide you. You become more receptive to receiving messages and understanding what your true path is rather than the one your ego created. If you allow your agenda to move out of the way, and lead from love, not fear, things will manifest from that place. If you manifest fear in your decisions of losing a job or losing a loved one, that energy will feed into the situation. If you move out of the way with your agenda, the universe will have your back. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals or try to reach your vision. It just means to scrap the timeline for your desires. Trust that the universe will safely bring you to your vision in the timeline that was meant to be. Bernstein uses the example of conceiving her child for this. Chapter 11. Unwavering Faith in the Universe. In the third trimester of her pregnancy, Bernstein had a fear that something would go entirely wrong. This didn't make sense, seeing that she felt better than ever and was having a beautiful pregnancy. The fear overtook her in a way that she was unable to sleep or get away from her anxiety. One restless night, she decided to meditate on her fear with a mantra about love. She received a sign that fear was a way to guide her back to love. You can't always avoid fear, but it can be used as a useful tool to find your way back to love. Bernstein reminds us of the choose again method when dealing with fear. 1. Notice the fear. 2. Forgive the thought. 3. Choose again. Bernstein suggests lifting yourself to a new baseline. We often resist feeling happy, thinking it can be too good to be true. But if you can continue to lift your fear and live through happiness and love, it becomes a habit and your new baseline. It's okay to anticipate the good things in your life. When you are at your new baseline, positive energy will flow naturally and the miracles of the universe will be able to reach you. There is a way to design your day to be in line with positive thinking. Bernstein describes the method as this. How do I want to feel today? How do I want to be today? What do I want to receive today? What do I want to give today? Write this down in a journal and begin the practice of designing your thoughts and actions in line with these questions. The important takeaway points are to get out of the way of your ego's agenda, to live in constant anticipation of what wonderful things are to happen to you, and to use fear as a guide back to love. Bernstein says that you need to practice relief as well, rather than trying to fix a situation. Sit back and see what the guidance is rather than trying to control it. The last piece of this is to commit to being a super attractor. There will be days when you are forced to choose between love and fear. If you choose love, you benefit everyone around you and make a huge difference in the world. It's a commitment worth keeping. Afterward. Bernstein talks about her labor and how the timing ended up being perfect. She struggled with patience, but in the end, saw why things worked out the way they did, and she had a healthy baby boy.